We're really excited to see what you're going to bring us in the future. This mission, Crew 10, going up to the International Space Station, very exciting. I hope you're following it along. I hope you have as much fun with it as we do. It is very exciting, and can't wait to see what you do with all the stuff you're learning, with all the interest, and very excited to see what you bring us. I love sushi. That's a simple one, but sashimi, the salmon and tuna would be stuff that I really like, and I know the astronauts on board, they really enjoy wasabi, and they really enjoy anything that's spicy. I have not been to Japan, but a lot of the Japanese astronauts have come through here. They are wonderful folks. Been friends with a couple of them for a while, and they are wonderful representatives of the nation of Japan.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we usually start with names, your jobs, and I usually do like, what is your favorite NASA mission? Mine is the Hubble Space Telescope. When I was an intern, I was up at Goddard and I worked on like their comms team. I also think it's super awesome, all the images we get and the science and cool things like that. So Hubble's probably my favorite NASA mission. So I'll pass it over to Jamie.
I'm Jamie Grow. I'm actually, and I love to say this, I'm one of you guys. I got my start in this whole thing by attending a NASA social. So I'll give you my background, but I'll start with my favorite mission. Will have to be the first NASA social I ever got to attend, which was CRS-14. So cargo resupply mission up to the International Space Station, now from Launch Complex 40. So yeah, that is my favorite that I'll tell you guys because it got my start in this world of things, not even just at NASA, but in this whole media landscape of everything. Prior to that event, I was an elementary school teacher. So I taught 5th grade at a STEM education facility, and I did reading and writing, and I wasn't even in charge of math or science. So how I ended up working at NASA is a crazy story. So once I did the NASA social, I met people like me and Emily now, and I was like, I can do that job. I want to do that job. Space is my passion. I want to facilitate that and be a storyteller. Hey, put that on a shirt, right? So from there, I did what you guys did. That's why I asked if anybody does this full time, because I did it in my free time as a teacher for many, many years. I started my own media outlet. I worked with teams. I was out here as a rocket launch photographer, doing that, setting remote cameras and that sort of stuff, and I managed to take that and turn that into a career as a journalist. So I worked for National News Media Outlet for about 1.5 years, and then there was an opportunity to join Kennedy as a writer. So I was out here as a contract writer, sharing the public affairs information, and from that I was picked up as a public affairs officer. So now my position here is public affairs officer with Gateway Deep Space Logistics here at Kennedy Space Center. It's a very fancy office to work in, not only name-wise, but also office-wise. They have remodeled the entire office, and you guys will get to hear a little bit more about what I do and where I work and the things we're doing a little bit later, because I managed to rope one of our Gateway guys out to come talk to you guys today. So awesome. We're excited about that. But that's what I'm doing, and as a public affairs officer, we touch a lot of different things. Emily, for sure, because she runs our social media, so she touches everything all day. She is running nonstop, working with all of our programs and all of our public affairs officer. I primarily focus on our Gateway and Moon to Mars program. So we work on a lot of like content focused on that with, web articles, feature articles. I got a media interview on Thursday for one of our subject matter experts. That is the first lead female engineer out here at Kennedy, so that's really, really exciting.
I'm Steve Seislov. I'm NASA's lead PAO for the Commercial Crew Program. So the good news that I'm bringing you this morning is that everything is looking really good for launch tomorrow evening. There's a number of reviews today that the engineers will go through, but it should be pretty smooth today. So that's really good news, and so we'll move along with that. And so I think y'all so far looking good. Weather's looking good, so it should be good for that. As far as favorite mission goes, I'm going to go back in the time machine because I go back to shuttle days. I've been around for too long, but STS-49. If you look it up, there's one of the greatest pictures certainly in space shuttle history, and perhaps also in all of space history, because with that mission they had to retrieve a satellite, and the satellite was spinning, and it was spinning too much for them to grab it with a robotic arm. So 3 astronauts stood in the shuttle's cargo bay, and as the satellite, which was as big as the cargo bay, was spinning, they reached out and put their gloved hands on it just to slow it down, and then they grabbed it, and then slowed it down enough, grabbed it, and pulled it into the cargo bay and put it on its holder. So that was the first mission of Endeavour, and really an extraordinarily dramatic time. But every mission is different, every crew is different. Really, they all those missions make their own memories for me. Seeing it up close, seeing it far away, whichever. I've been in the industry for more than 25 years, and there isn't a day that I've regretted being here. So I'll stop there.
Steve and I have a lot of similarities there. We kind of came to Kennedy in the same roundabout route there. He was also news media, then writer, public affairs officer, so got a lot of common.
Look at you now.
I'm welcome in conference rooms across the agency.
I'm Patrick O'Neill. I'm the Public Affairs and Outreach Lead for the International Space Station National Laboratory. I've been in my role now for just about 13 years, and my favorite launch, so basically every single commercial resupply services mission is an opportunity to send R&D to the space station that the astronauts help to support. So from a standpoint of, they're all my favorite because I love all of my kids the same, so to speak. So there's not one of those that really stands out because it's all about being able to send great R&D to station. But if I'm thinking about just one launch in particular that really helped to maybe change the trajectory of where what we're doing on station now, I would say that when we had the SpaceX crew flight test, that was kind of ushering in a new era of commercial utilization. It was also allowing us the opportunity to have more astronauts on the space station to be able to perform additional R&D, which would then bring value back to life here on Earth. It would help spark commerce in low Earth orbit. So it's been a really exciting last 5 years now since that's happened. Goodness gracious, 4.5. So yeah, it's a really fun job to be at where I'm at right now, because I have the chance to go and interface with all the research teams. What are you sending? Why are you sending it? What's different about doing it in space? What's the value that it can bring to the American taxpayer? What's the value that it can bring to humanity across the board? So again, it's been truly a blessing to be in a role like this. It's every single day, as Steve said, it's exciting. Every launch is different, and there's always new and exciting things to talk about.
All right, hey everyone, my name is Stephanie Plusinski. I'm on the public affairs team as well. Steve is actually my lead. So as well as commercial crew, commercial resupply, and exploration research and technology programs. So a lot of exciting stuff. We actually just sent 2 payloads to the moon, one on Firefly, the electrodynamic dust shield, and then Prime 1 on Intuitive Machines 2, which we were able to successfully get some data from. So even though it did tip over on its side, we still had a favorable outcome, which was great. I've been here for about 5 years. It's been extremely exciting. Like they said, it's never boring. It's different every day. It's a lot of fun, so I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have. My favorite mission would probably be Demo 2, because that was the first time I saw a crewed mission. Even though I grew up in Florida, I never saw a shuttle launch, which I really am mad at my parents for never taking me up there for that. I grew up in South Florida. It was just extremely exciting. I've seen so many Falcon 9 launches prior to that, but knowing that there was a crew on board, which is what you guys will get to see tomorrow, was just a different experience. So super excited for you guys. NASA socials have always been one of my favorite things about working in social media when I did that back in the day. So I know Emily and Jamie have a really fun day ahead of you guys. Off to you.
I'm Christine Hidalgo, and I am a space station science communicator. So I've been here for just a couple of years. I'm a little fresher than these guys. My favorite launch is probably Crew 8, because that was my first launch in this position that I'm in now. So that was really cool. And then I did get to see a shuttle launch kind of by accident once when I was a kid. Like on a road trip through Florida, we happened to see on the news that there was going to be a shuttle launch, and so we went to one of these parks nearby and got to watch one of those. So that's kind of what got me hooked on space. And I'm from Houston, so we used to take a lot of trips to Space Center Houston when I was a little kid. So yeah, my job is to help the public understand all of the science happening on the International Space Station. So we have tons of different partners across the world, and we do everything from microbiology to looking out at the universe to looking back at Earth and studying the human body. So of exciting research and groundbreaking stuff that happens up there, so it's really interesting and exciting.
Favorite mission?
Probably create, like I said, because it was my first one that I had got to do all the way through.
Awesome. Cool. So this is y'all's opportunity. We've got like 30 minutes. You can pepper them with questions, whatever you want, whether it's space station, crewed launches,
There's accountants, everything else that's involved. What would you say is the largest non-technical group in the program? Yeah.
Contracts, HR. Truth is, there's a job for everybody. There's a job for every skill. There's a job for every person in this agency. It is a fantastic agency. It does a lot of stuff. The astronauts are the face, and they are the technical backbone of flying into space. But there is a wide and broad technical and financial and like we do, communicative base of support for everything that this agency does. The probes, the science, the astronauts. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have told me when I was in college, even say that I was going to work for NASA, I would have never believed you in a million years. To think that there was a spot for me here. I mean, really, we have everything. Graphic designers, we have a barber shop, if that's what you're into. Yeah, I mean, Kennedy's like its own little city. Like, we have so much going on, and really there is space for everyone. As much as that might be overused, it's certainly true. Finance, HR, everything. I'm sure you guys could all find jobs here if you really wanted to.
At JSU, we have someone who just fixes the bikes. Like they're there. They've been there since the '60s, so he tries to restore them to as close as their original as possible. So it's really cool, actually. Yeah, it's a cool job.
That's an interesting thing.
JSC is much smaller than Kennedy. It's like you can walk or drive. I used to work at Johnson too, so it's much smaller than here versus like here you try to bike like
Yeah.
you don't have to take like 20 minutes.
We had some team members once that took a golf cart from here to the central headquarters campus.
We had team members. Weren't you?
I wasn't on that, no. I was like, that's dangerous.
There was a time where there was a conventional pathway to becoming an astronaut, and that has shifted considerably, obviously. Would you say that there is sort of a conventional path still where the majority of astronauts do X or Y, or do you think it's pretty variable now and it's going to continue to vary more?
It's always going to be technical and scientific. That's always going to be the path.
For NASA.
For the NASA side, yeah. When you look at the traditional career path in the military, fighter pilot, and then test pilot, and then you're available to be an astronaut. I don't think that'll change. On the opposite side, where you have the research and the scientists and stuff like that, that is where you've seen it really broaden out. But it's always been a technical backbone. But what is often underplayed or really not appreciated as much, and there's two factors to it. Astronauts are extremely good team players. They're not team players in name only. They are, as much as they are given leadership positions and excel in leadership positions, they are very good followers too. They really build the support that a team needs, and it's that kind of group talent is something that they're always looking for, and that's how you can whittle down. You know, when you go from 12 to 18,000 people applying, and you're going to hire, 9 or 16 or something. That the way they whittle it down, they do that, and the health factors are always, these are extremely healthy people when they're selected.
The only thing I would say is that that's the NASA kind of method, but we are embarking into a new world of private astronaut missions, commercial astronauts, etc., where the criteria might be a little bit different. So obviously we have this crew mission that's forthcoming, but then in a couple of months we're likely to have another private astronaut mission from Axiom Space. And while most of those individuals that are going up are emblematic of what it is we traditionally think of as astronauts right now, who's to say that one day down the road you might have a consortium of pharmaceutical companies that say, we want to pool X number of dollars together because we want to be able to send a mission specialist up to the space station to be able to support a broad array of biomedical investigations, and we need somebody that has that skill set that can be able to perform that and literally focus only on that. And so I think that that's kind of the brave new world where we're going in. And then whatever happens beyond the space station, commercial destinations in low Earth orbit, I think you're going to see a much more wide cast of characters, if you will, that would have the opportunity to be able to either go to space or support research in space.
I'm sure you guys have seen that Katy Perry is soon going to space
yes.
with Blue
I'm so
Origin.
excited.
So there's also those group of private astronauts as well. So it is opening up, but yeah, for NASA, it's definitely more the traditional sense.
In your role with public affairs, how have you all been navigating the changing media landscape and the ever-evolving social platforms? And how do you curate the information you're presenting to the different audiences you're trying to speak to? And is there someone you're trying to speak to when you create your press releases?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
That's a hard question.
I know.
There's a lot of answers to that.
Yes.
There's a couple of different approaches that we take, and we write way more than press releases. And really, if you think of it as kind of a funnel, we have things that reach to a very broad group of people that are very short. Anything sometimes like with tweets and things like that, and it's enough to get interest. But if you want to know more, there is always more. You can always go deeper. You can go from the tweet to a little bit broader social posting down to a feature story on NASA.gov. Those are very detailed, and you can then dive from there if you want to. You can even see the research papers that back up and inform everything that is above it. So really the idea is that whatever you are interested in, or as deep as you want to go, there's something there for you to find.
I'd say on top of that too, not only is there something for you to find, I mean, so there's releases, features, blogs, videos, general social, but I think that to Steve's point, there's a targeted audience for every single one of those types of things. So for instance, we're putting out a press release today where we talk about some of the science that we expect the astronauts to be able to support over the course of their long duration mission. And that is more for a general community. Next, we're going to have a couple of features that target some of those investigations one by one. And that's more for a science-laden or more tech community. So it just depends. I mean, we start kind of high with this general, and then it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper until, hopefully one day down the road, some of the science that we're talking about right now, it either publishes in a major journal publication, or there's announcements that can be made. If you're a private company, you don't have to publish your results if you're leveraging the ISS National Lab. But if you want to communicate the fact that, hey, we learned this on doing research on the space station, and it has now helped us to create a more effective product that you, a consumer, can go and buy, then that's where we also had the opportunity to talk about the benefits that station and R&D.
I like 3 days.
3 days to 12 months.
I volunteer to be stuck for 9
Yes.
months.
9 months, 3 days.
I would go for as long as they're willing to send me.
I'm just happy to be here.
Speaking of 9 months, did y'all consider this a rescue mission?
No. I did not consider it a rescue mission. How many of y'all think Butch and Sonny are stuck?
Nope.
How many of y'all are afraid to admit you think Butch and Sonny are stuck?
We love you all.
That was a question I got a lot.
May I interject?
Yeah.
Of course.
So that came up on one of my social media things. A lot of my friends who aren't industry were asking that. And so I came up with an analogy that I used that was basically saying that my parents went to the grocery store and their car broke down. They had it towed. My parents are still at the grocery store. They could come home any number of ways. They could come home Uber, they could take the bus, they could take a cab. But you know what? I'm going to the store later in the day, so when I go by there, I'll pick them up and let them take my car home. That was the best thing I could say as far as that. And they were at the grocery store just fine, not a care in the world, everything was fine. So that's how I put it to my folks.
Yeah, exactly. And we've worked a lot with Butch and Sonny over the years, and I've known Sonny for a while. I think all of us have. And Sonny is much more likely to feel bad for us that we're stuck on Earth than so they're not stuck. They've been able to come back. Yeah.
And they've done so many great things up there. I'm sure these two could talk about all the science that they've done for us. So they're certainly not bored.
So I actually have two questions. So speaking of Crew 9, the first thing I want to ask is when you guys assemble the astronauts or the team, because when I work in film production, I have to kind of figure out what everybody's like specialty is and like what they can bring to the table. So what are some characteristics you guys look for? And since it's such an international thing, is it like, do they all have certain skill sets, and how do you guys know they will be great team players? And then the second question is, with the current crew, Crew 9, what are the, if you can name 3, what would those be?
Do you want me to take the crew question? Sure. The next one? Okay. When it comes to assembling crews, astronauts have a very broad range of specialties. They have a very broad range of skill sets. So what you have is a couple of things. Like there's 4 astronauts going up on Crew 10, 2 American, 1 Japanese, and 1 Russian. And so on the American side, each agency, it's up to each agency how they want to crew, who they want to fill their respective seats. And each agency tends to do it a little bit differently, reflective of their cultures, reflective of a number of different things. In NASA, for the American system, and it's always been this way, it's a flight rotation basis. When your name comes up, you go, and you're going with whoever else's name comes up, you know.
Sounds like production.
And that's and that's the way that is. In the Russian space program, especially with Mir, but even now, it was much more about assembling who they think works well together. These 2, these 3 go up together, but that can lead to other issues of, does someone constantly get overlooked, for example, things like that. Japan and Canada, the European Space Agency, they have much smaller astronaut contingencies to choose from, so they have different priorities there too. Really, astronauts, like I said, they're team players, and that's across the board. They're extremely intelligent and able to do a lot of different things. So the space station turns out to be a really good one there, where you have 7 people. You have 7 people who came up on 2 different vehicles. Sometimes you have 11 people, you know, during handover times. So if you're going to have that many people and that many personalities, you got to have a big place. So that's the 6-bedroom house up there.
So I was listening when we first came in on your introduction, and you were talking a little bit about like 3D printing and kind of the bridge between science fiction, science reality. And the joke that I make now is that a lot of the R&D that is happening on station really does kind of morph into that world of sci-fi, and so as an example of some of the projects that the crew has supported. So I don't know if you know, we have a 3D bioprinter on the space station now that they've done a couple of test cases with, where they have printed off a human meniscus, they printed off human cardiac tissue, they brought them back down for further analysis. The thought is that you might be able to print these types of tissues or eventually organs in space more effectively, and then bring them back down for patients on Earth. Or if you're an astronaut and you're living and working in space and you need to print something, then you can do that. And it's not just printing a screwdriver, but it's potentially printing something that can help your body.
Amazing. Wow.
So we're at the fundamental levels right now. So you're still many moons away, but nonetheless, it's still very, very cool when you think about that. Some of the other science that they've been supporting from a national lab perspective, we have had a lot of neurodegenerative R&D that's gone to station over the last year or so. So there's been the National Stem Cell Foundation. There's been a few different companies that specialize in therapeutics that are, they're not just looking at like brain organoids that have derived with either dementia or Parkinson's, but Alzheimer's, but they're actually testing actual drug targets and therapeutics. So it's to the point where if you are able to get a reaction in space quicker, then that could accelerate the pathway for them to make a drug that is available for people here on Earth much faster. And one of the other cool things about using the space station is if you are a pharmaceutical company, I'll use Merck as an example. So right now, Merck's main cancer drug is Keytruda. They have done multiple investigations on Keytruda using protein crystal growth on the space station. The thought is that they might be able to create a more effective therapeutic both from a manufacturing perspective, which is good for them, as well as from a delivery perspective, which is good for us. So right now, if you want to get Keytruda as a remedy, you have to go to the hospital and you sit down and you're getting an IV drip and you're there all day long. But what if, through some of the research they're doing on station, you're now having ingestible or you're getting a shot and 20 minutes later you're out on the golf course living your life? That's kind of like some of the thoughts that an entity like a Merck is doing. But that's kind of the same idea too with these other drug companies is if you have a FDA approved drug, that means all the characteristics associated with that therapeutic have already gone through the approval process. So if you send elements of that to space and you're able to create a more effective drug using those same elements, you don't have to start at the very, very bottom. You can implement that back into your therapeutic right off the bat.
That's astonishing to hear. I wasn't sure if this is like public knowledge yet, or is this just more like
the Keytruda stuff is public. They've flown multiple times. They've published their results too. So and they actually are going through stages now where they are looking at either ingestibles or taking a shot. So you know, it's things like that that are really exciting because that helps to bring the relevance of what's happening in space, the research the astronauts are helping to support, to things that are very commonplace for all of us right here on Earth.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Because I actually have relatives that have dementia, so
Yeah.
that would be a breakthrough, I think.
Yeah.
Especially to help like people on Earth.
Well, and like honestly, we had not done a lot of neurodegenerative research until recently, but Anne McLean, she talked about it. I had the chance to meet with her about a month and a half ago. And when she was on station in 2018, 2019, one of the projects that she was working on was a protein crystal growth investigation from the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And some of the knowledge that has been ascertained from that is now being influenced in a lot of this other neurodegenerative research that's happening on station. So it's like, you know, she was involved in very, very building blocks of looking at that type of research. And so she was excited to see, you know, how station has evolved and, you know, the application of going from fundamental to like truly diving into the hardcore science so that we can really get, you know, fantastic results.
Thank you. That's amazing.
Oh, I have a question. I'm Japanese, and I was wondering if you have European agencies and Japanese agency and Canadian agency, a lot of international partners you have. What's your opinion about the Japanese agency? And because we're in Japan, I'm just looking out to NASA, and I'd like to get to know what's your perspective on Japanese agencies when you work together. What's the characteristics do you think it is, and what's the improvement that they could have, or?
I mean, we've worked with them a lot over the past few months, and then we got to see, they're all here in person. I don't think they're coming in person today, but they'll be here tomorrow. They're great to work with. They're very curious.
Is there any specific about Japanese agency that's different from others, or?
I think we all have the same goal in mind. I don't know if Steve has anything else to add. I don't think there's anything specific.
The JAXA operates the Kibo scientific laboratory that's up there. That is renowned for being, the engineering on it is very precise. In aerospace circles, the Japanese engineering is considered pristine. And that's reflected. It's also very well organized and very clean. And just to broaden out a little bit, it is interesting the way that the different labs reflect the different cultures that they come from. The European lab has a unique character to it. The American lab, Destiny, has a unique character to it. JAXA's Kibo, I just mentioned. You know, all of the nations in very subtle ways bring these scientific capabilities together in a way that really does reflect what's important to those societies. And I think that's really a cornerstone of what makes the space station not only unique but enormously successful.
You could also make the argument too that Kibo probably gets more visibility than just about any other one because that's where the majority of the downlink, the live transmissions that the astronauts are part of, that's where that happens at, right?
Right, I see that Kibo. Yeah, they use a lot because I hear it's because of the sound quality that's better.
And operated space stations. So that the intention is to preserve a low Earth orbit research capability. There's also, of course, the exploration of the moon, exploration of Mars. Those are also policy goals. And this is really the first time in all of human spaceflight history that we have not focused on either or. Up until now, it's always been you can either do this or you can do that. Now we are at a time when our technology is evolving. We're using these different business practices to bring up commercial capabilities while NASA still pushes the exploration envelope. So this is the first time in human spaceflight, in spaceflight in general, where we've been able to keep a low Earth orbit presence and do that research while still setting the stage for exploring deep space, for taking humans to Mars, to the moon and to Mars. There could be people, I don't know what number of years, but I mean, there's likely to be a point where there's astronauts in low Earth orbit and on the moon and on Mars all at the same time, all doing different kinds of work, but all pushing the envelope that way.
If I could piggyback on that too. I mean, I think that the space station right now, so to Steve's point, it's through 2030 is what the NASA commitment is. The ISS National Lab, we're through 2027 as of right now. But I would also look at the space station as this incubator in low Earth orbit, where you have the ability to test and validate not just R&D, but actual tech demonstrations, facilities, things could be available for researchers to use in commercial destinations that go beyond the space station, whether that be in low Earth orbit or even Moon, Mars, etc. So this is a great proving ground right now. And when we move away from the space station, then I think that now it starts to become a question more of what is the business model, what is the market like? And again, that's why it's great for us to have this space station, leverage it now. So quick question I would ask for y'all is, how much do you think it would cost to send an experiment to the space station?
10 million? 10,000 a pound?
So what if I were to tell you that if you were to send research to the space station, the ride up, the ride down, the astronaut as your lab technician, all that is assumed by NASA, by the American taxpayer. So it doesn't cost you anything to launch. Now, the only thing that would be different is if I wanted to go out there and send my phone up there, it has to go in flight certified hardware. But outside of that, everything else is covered. So that's what makes this space station unique. I don't know if that's going to be the same case for future space platforms in low Earth orbit, which is why it's incumbent upon us to leverage this one as best we can for the time that we have remaining on it, so that it sets the foundation for what's going to happen beyond the space station. And the mantra for NASA is that on these commercial destinations in low Earth orbit, they will be one of many customers. Now, what does a customer look like? Does it mean that it's going to be international partners? Does it mean that 50% of that is going to be allocated towards tourism or people that just want to go and live and work in space for an extended period of time? We don't really know what all those models look like yet, and so that's why the next couple of years are going to be pretty interesting.
Is there a jurisdiction? Like, how can I word that? I guess if a commercial company does put their station, like VAST, when VAST goes up and puts theirs up there, who do they get approval from to do whatever they're going to do up there? Does that make sense? Like, who's their boss? Like,
which agency, if you will, would be?
Yeah. Is it Space Force? Is it going to be NASA? Is it who's going to be who's going to hold all the keys to this?
They have
So, like,
5 years to figure it out.
Yeah. You're asking the right questions.
Yeah, I mean, I've been wondering ever since, they said that the space station is going down in 2030. VAST, I assume it's gonna be the next ones to have something up there. That's what I keep hearing, VAST.
I think it's too early to assume a brand name.
Okay.
To whatever it's gonna be. There's several players in that market.
Yeah.
They're all coming up with different designs. They're all moving along in different ways. How it's gonna be governed from NASA's perspective, NASA is going to have a set of requirements, same way we do with commercial crew. It's not, here's a spacecraft, good luck. It's does your spacecraft have the ability to do the, can it hold air? Fine.
Yeah.
If it can't hold air, can it be, have more air pumped in safely without noticing? You don't want to leave anybody, in that sort of circumstance. So there's gonna be a lot of different rules, and the contracts are gonna be as big as any station that they send up. So.
I was just wondering, it's just like, well, who says what you can do with your space station?
Well, that's all about working through a partnership.
Yeah, as Patrick mentioned, there's gonna have to be some partnership and learning from what we've learned on space station so far, since it's a testing ground for the future, so they'll definitely have to have some type of communication.
Get your popcorn.
Yeah.
Maybe like Antarctica, right, where there are research bases and nobody owns Antarctica, however, or maritime law, things like established that's never been broached
Yeah.
before.
Well, we're gonna release y'all from the firing squad.